One of the great things about baseball is the fact that on any given night, in any given city, history can be made. From a player rising up the all-time leaderboards to a single game accomplishment, you truly never know what you're going to witness when you go to the ballpark. Let me rephrase. When you are allowed to go to the ballpark. There have been approximately 220,000 Major League Baseball games played since the sport's first season in 1876, and every night the history books can be rewritten. One of the incredible feats that seem to happen every year is a no-hitter, of which 305 have been thrown to date. Every single time a ball game begins, there's approximately a 0.14% chance that you'll see a no-hitter. Andy Hawkins was nearing the end of a rather forgettable playing career in 1990. He never made an all-star team, never received Cy Young or MVP votes. He was just your average, middle-of-the-road starting pitcher in the 80s. He was coming off a season in which he led Major League Baseball in earned runs allowed, and his ERA was around 6.5 when the calendar turned to July. But Hawkins could eat innings, and that's where his true value lied. His employer, the New York Yankees, were in the middle of one of the worst stretches in the history of the organization. They'd missed the playoffs for the 9th straight season in 1990, and record the 4th lowest winning percentage in their franchise's history at the end of that season. The Yankees in the late 80s and early 90s were the equivalent to the Baltimore Orioles today. Always at the bottom of the standings, and more or less the laughingstock of the league. On July 1st of the 1990 season, Hawkins trotted out to the mound at Comiskey Park to take on the Chicago White Sox. The Yankees had the worst record in all of baseball, while their opponents in the White Sox held the best record in the Bigs. This game had blowout written all over it, and with the struggling Hawkins on the mound, it looked like this game was over before it even started. The game that would transpire next would sum up the Yankees' 1990 season perfectly, as the White Sox would go on to win 4-0, despite getting no hit by Andy Hawkins. Hawkins' professional career began when he was selected 5th overall by the San Diego Padres out of high school in the 1978 Major League Baseball draft, and he didn't live up to the expectations as a player selected in front of him. He was, however, drafted a couple picks ahead of a guy who hit a pretty important World Series home run. You might have heard of him. But Hawkins would rise through the Padres system and make his debut in 1982. He was a versatile pitcher during the early part of his career, making starts and pitching out of the pen for the Friars. It was that versatility that helped the Padres reach their first ever World Series in 1984, with Hawkins leading the charge. Despite his mediocre regular season performance, Hawkins put together one of the best postseason pitching performances in baseball history. Over 15 2/3 innings that postseason, Hawkins would allow just 1 run over 6 relief appearances amongst the NLCS and the World Series. His 0.57 postseason ERA is amongst the lowest in postseason baseball history, while his 2.298 hits per 9 innings is the lowest of any pitcher in any single postseason in baseball history. He also owns the only World Series win in San Diego Padres franchise history. No, seriously. The Padres lost to Detroit in 5 games in 1984 and got swept by the Yankees in 1998 in their only other World Series appearance, making Hawkins the only pitcher in Padres history to pick up a win in the Fall Classic. With the recent emergence of the young talent currently playing for the Padres, Hawkins might have some company in the near future. After 7 seasons in San Diego, Hawkins elected free agency and signed a 3-year deal with the New York Yankees prior to the 1989 season. And his first season in pinstripes didn't go too well. He pitched to a 15-15 record with a 4.80 ERA across 208 1/3 innings. His 111 earned runs allowed led all of Major League Baseball for 1989. He had hoped to make a couple of adjustments and improvements for his sophomore season in the Bronx, but struggled heavily. By mid-June, he had made just 9 starts and allowed 4 or more earned runs in all but 2 of those starts, including a 5-run thrashing against the Red Sox on June 5th, in which he didn't make it out of the first inning. After that start against the Red Sox, the Yankees offered Hawkins an outright release in which he seriously contemplated and was preparing to accept. His ERA was sitting at a staggering 8.56, and it looked like he was on pace again to lead the league in earned runs allowed. However, an injury to the newly acquired Mike Witt caused Hawkins to reconsider and stick with his current club. It's a good thing he did, because less than a month later, he would go on to pitch one of the most unique games in the history of Major League Baseball. Something seemed to click in Hawkins after the possibility of him losing his job came into question. His next 4 starts would be among the best during his tenure with the Yankees. He'd pitched to a 3.33 ERA over 27 very solid innings, dropping his season ERA over 2 points to a 6.49. He looked to continue the hot streak when he made his first career start at Comiskey Park against the Chicago White Sox, owners of the best record in baseball. This White Sox team was stacked. It featured a 42-year-old Carlton Fisk, who would receive MVP votes that year, 22-year-olds Robin Ventura and Frank Thomas, Ozzie Guillen playing shortstop, and a young Sammy Sosa that was the club's young superstar. On paper, this game was over before it started. Hawkins was slated to oppose a young White Sox lefty named Greg Hibbard. Hibbard was your typical crafty lefty. His velocity wasn't going to beat you, but he possessed great command and was able to locate multiple pitches well for strikes in any count. The game started off with Hibbard setting down the Yankees 1-2-3 in the top half of the first, and it was Hawkins' turn to answer. He countered Hibbard with a 1-2-3 inning himself, setting down the White Sox with ease. Both pitchers would continue to trade 1-2-3 innings until Hawkins walked White Sox catcher Ron Karkovice with 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th inning. Hawkins would work through the 5th unscathed, and suddenly both pitchers had dueling no-hitters through 5 full innings of baseball. In the top half of the 6th, Bob Garen would break up the no-hitter with a sharp infield single, but the Yankees were unable to push a run across. Hibbert would eventually exit after 7 shutout innings, holding the Yankees to just 4 hits. Hawkins, on the other hand, was still working on something special. Heading into the bottom of the 8th inning, his no-hitter and shutout were still intact as he scattered 3 walks across 7 frames thus far. Hawkins recorded the first 2 outs of the 8th inning with relative ease. Then came up White Sox 8th place hitter Sammy Sosa. Slammin' Sammy wasn't his first full season in the big leagues and wasn't the feared home run hitter you probably remember him for. Still scrawny and full of natural ability, he was hitting in the low 200s with not a lot of power to his name yet. Sosa would hit a sharp ground ball to Yankees third baseman Mike Blowers, which looked like the end of the inning. Blowers would get his feet crossed up and boot the ground ball, allowing Sosa to reach first base and extend the frame. A pair of walks loaded the bases for Robin Ventura, who stepped into the plate with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th inning. Ventura wasted no time, swinging at the first pitch he saw and lifting a routine fly ball into left field. Jim Leyritz, the Yankees rookie outfielder who was playing in his 21st career Major League game and only his 3rd game in left field, was set to make the catch and move this game into the 9th. But what Phil Rizzuto warned not to happen was exactly what happened, allowing all 3 runners to score.
Hey, going back Leyritz, don't fall. Oh, he dropped the ball. You could see trouble all the way on that. He was stumbling. Ball goes off his glove. 3-run score. And that will be an error. Can you imagine losing a ball game on a no-hitter?
So the shutout was over, and the Yankees were suddenly losing, but Hawkins still had a job to do. He was tasked with stopping the bleeding and trying to get Ivan Calderon out to end the threat. A lofty fly ball to right field, in which Jesse Barfield loses in the sun, allows for Ventura to come home and tack on another run. The bleeding would finally stop after Dan Pasqua pops out following Calderon, after 3 errors and Hawkins essentially rolling 6 outs in the bottom half of the 8th inning. Heading into the top of the 9th, the White Sox were holding on to a 4-0 lead over the Yankees, despite not getting a hit. Through the first 8 innings, the White Sox had 8 runners reach base, 5 via a Hawkins walk and 3 via errors in the bottom half of the 8th inning. Scott Verdinsky came in to close out the game for the White Sox and set the Yankees down in order to close out the game and give the White Sox a 4-0 win, despite not recording a base hit. As rare as this feat might seem, it was actually the 3rd time in Major League Baseball history that a team would get no hit and go on to win the game. Previous 2 times, when Ken Johnson no-hit the Cincinnati Reds in 1964, and when Steve Barber and Stu Miller combined to hit the Detroit Tigers in 1967, the losing pitcher recorded 27 outs over 9 full innings pitched, and these no-hitters were officially recognized by Major League Baseball. Hawkins only pitched 8 no-hit innings, and it was originally recognized as a no-hitter by the league. This was actually the first time in Major League Baseball history that a pitcher had thrown a complete game that hadn't been shortened due to darkness or rain and had not allowed a hit. However, just less than a year later in 1991, Major League Baseball officially changed the ruling of a no-hitter to an official no-hit game occurs when a pitcher or pitchers allows no hits during the entire course of a game, which consists of at least 9 innings. This new rule change means that despite all he had endured, after his fielders and teammates had failed to score for him and back him up in the field, Hawkins had this crowning jewel of pitching taken away from him by a technicality. But he wouldn't be the only pitcher to suffer due to this rule change. This technicality of a visiting pitcher not completing the full 9 innings because the bottom half of the 9th wasn't played not only impacted Hawkins, but a couple other pitchers down the road. In 1992, Matt Young found himself in the same boat as Hawkins, as he would no-hit the Cleveland Indians but lose the game 2-1. In 2008, Jared Weaver and Jose Arredondo would no-hit the Los Angeles Dodgers through 8 innings, but fall 1-0 as the visitor. While this is unfortunate for all these men, Hawkins' bad break was especially brutal and devastating.
I tell you what, it's really tough to throw a no-hitter and get beat. I don't know of too many instances where I've seen that happen, but I threw well, and I feel good about my own performance today. We're doing okay. I think we're going to be all right. We just need to just keep our heads up and stay with it.
The next 2 start of Hawkins' career would also be historic, though not nearly as historic as his 8-inning no-no. In his next start, Hawkins would carry a shutout into the 12th inning before allowing a pair of runs and being taken out. Since that start, on July 6th of 1990, no other starting pitcher has pitched into the 12th inning or beyond, and it's something we'll likely never see again based on the way bullpens and pitch counts are used nowadays. His start after that, he faced the White Sox again, and after the game was shortened after the 6th inning due to rain, the The Yankees found themselves on the other end of an unofficial no-hitter, as they failed to record a hit against White Sox starter Meldanino Perez. Andy Hawkins' career and legacy will always be the game that could have been. Between every official and unofficial no-hitter in Major League Baseball history, a team has never scored more than 2 runs while being no-hit, with the exception of 4 the White Sox hung on the Yankees and Hawkins. There have been many unfortunate moments in the history of Major League Baseball, but throwing a no-hitter and losing, then having your no-hitter be discredited shortly after pitching it, has to take the cake as one of the most unfortunate pitching performances in baseball history.